June 11th, 2026, Mexico City, the Estadio Azteca. 90,000 people in there, and I promise you, not one of them is breathing right. 9 minutes. That's all we are into the opening match of the World Cup. The first game. Nothing else is happening on the planet right now. This is the only football match on Earth, and the whole world has its eyes on this pitch. Then a South African defender takes a touch he should never take. Heavy, careless, and one man sees it before anyone else in that stadium does, before the commentators, before the keeper. He's already gone. Green shirt, number 9, legs absolutely on fire. He gets there first, one touch to kill it, and for half a second everything just stops. Then he buries it. No mercy. And the Azteca, listen, the Azteca doesn't cheer. It detonates. The concrete shakes. 90,000 Mexicans screaming one man's name into the night sky, because that right there is the first goal of the entire World Cup. Home soil, the most famous stadium in the Americas. But here's what nobody in that crowd wants to think about. Not in this moment. The man they're screaming for, he's not from Mexico. He was born 3,000 kilometers away, in a country that watched him grow up and never once asked him to play. So how on earth does that happen?
Okay, before we go anywhere, you need to feel what this match actually means, because this isn't just game 1 of a tournament. Mexico has hosted the World Cup before. 1970, Pelé lifted the trophy here. 1986, Maradona scored the greatest goal in the history of the sport here, on this exact grass. The Azteca isn't really a stadium. Ask any Mexican. It's a cathedral. And in 2026, after 40 years, the World Cup finally comes home. Mexico opens the whole thing against South Africa. The same fixture, by the way, that opened the 2010 World Cup. 16 years apart. History rhyming, and it's doing it on purpose. But Mexico walks into this night carrying a curse. And every Mexican fan watching knows exactly which one I mean. For decades, El Tri has been good enough to dream and never quite good enough to deliver. 7 straight World Cups. 7 knocked out in the round of 16. Every single time. There's even a name for the match they can never reach. El Quinto Partido, the 5th game. It haunts an entire nation. So the pressure at the Azteca that night isn't just about winning. It's about a country daring itself to believe again. And the man who answers 9 minutes in does it while breaking football's oldest unwritten rule. The one that says the shirt you score in should be the country you were born in. Because all night, across South America, people are asking one question. If Julián Quiñones was born in Colombia, what is he doing in green? The answer starts in a place most scouts couldn't find on a map.
Magui Payan, deep in Nariño in the south of Colombia. Small, poor, forgotten, no academies down there, no scouts with clipboards. We're talking about a region marked by guerrilla groups and drug trafficking, a place where football was never a career path. It was an escape hatch, sometimes the only one. Julián is born there in 1997, and life wastes no time hurting him. His father walks out while he's still a child. Just leaves, so he's raised by women. His mother, his 3 little sisters, and his grandmother. He says it himself, years later, and it'll break your heart a little. His grandmother was like a father to him. Boots? There's no money for boots. So he plays barefoot on dirt in the heat. He plays in secret too, hiding from his mother, skipping meals because dragging that kid off a pitch was basically impossible. He remembered it simply later on. They played barefoot, and that was their happiness. Now here's the thing that makes this story sting. The kid is good. Not good for a small town. Not good considering. Good. Full stop. As a teenager, he gets himself to Football Paz, a modest amateur club over in Cali. First trial, a scrimmage full of strangers. Nobody knows his name. He scores 4 goals. 4! The club takes one look and takes him in, houses him, feeds him, and then he does something genuinely absurd. So go on. Count the Colombian clubs that came for him. Take your time. Count them.
0. Not 1. And that's the rejection. And honestly, this is the part nobody tells you because it's so much worse than a rejection letter. There was no letter, no phone call, no trial at a Colombian First Division club, no youth national team invitation, nothing. Just silence going on and on. And think about when this is happening. This is Colombia's golden era. James Rodriguez has just won the Golden Boot at the 2014 World Cup. The whole world is in love with him. Falcao is one of the most feared strikers alive. The entire country is drunk on football. The system supposedly is working beautifully. And while all of that is going on, while the parades are happening, a kid from Nariño is scoring 50 goals a season in Cali. And Colombian football looks straight through him, like he's made of glass. The same way his father looked through him. The same way the world looks through towns like Maguey Payan every single day. You know who finally moves? Not a Colombian club. Tigres. From Monterrey, Mexico. One of the biggest clubs in all of North America. In 2015, they signed the teenager for their under-20 side. A Mexican giant doing the homework Colombia never bothered with. So picture this. 17 years old. He packs one bag, hugs his mother, his grandmother, his 3 sisters, everything and everyone he has ever known, and boards a plane to a country he has never seen. Because his own country never opened a door. Mexico opened one. But I have to be honest with you about what's waiting on the other side of that door. It isn't glory. It's not even close.
Slow down with me here, please, because this is the part of the story everyone skips, and it's the part that actually matters. Mexico doesn't hand Julián a thing. Tigres take one look at the kid from Colombia and decide he's not ready, so out he goes. On loan. January 2016, he debuts for Venados, a second division side, and announces himself the only way he knows how. 2 goals against Cruz Azul in the cup? Doesn't matter. Another loan. Lobos Biop this time, a small club scrapping for its life, and there he finally explodes. 16 goals across the season. For a moment, he looks like the player Cali saw. He goes back to Tigres thinking, surely he's earned his place now? He hasn't. The coach barely sees him. Fringes of the squad. A substitute. A spare part you keep in the garage just in case. And the years just go. 21, 22, 23. Alone in a foreign country, wiring money home to his mother and his sisters, watching football happen from a bench. Sit with that image for a second. A young man in a quiet apartment in Monterrey. Too Colombian for Mexico. Too forgotten for Colombia. Belonging, really, to nobody at all. And then comes a Tuesday. June 2018. The World Cup in Russia. Mexico against Germany. The reigning world champions. The machine nobody beats. Julián watches it on a screen like millions of other people, and Mexico win. The entire country loses its mind. Strangers hugging in the street. And somewhere in his chest, something shifts. He said it himself later. That was the match. The moment he actually felt, the emotion of being Mexican. Not the day his papers came through. A football match, watched alone, thousands of kilometers from where he was born, by a man slowly working out a truth most of us never have to face. Home isn't where you're born. It's where you're wanted. But here's the catch. Feeling Mexican and being chosen by Mexico are 2 completely different things. To be chosen, he'd have to make himself impossible to ignore, and in 2021, that is exactly what he does.
Atlas, Guadalajara, a club so cursed it hadn't won a league title in 70 years. 70. Grandfathers were born, raised families, and died waiting for that trophy. Quiñones arrives in 2021, and the curse just dies. Atlas win the league. Then, I'm not joking, they win it again. Back-to-back champions. And the face of it all, the heartbeat of it, is the barefoot kid from Maguey Payan, now the best player in the entire Mexican league. And now, After 50 goals went unanswered after 17 years of silence, Colombia calls. The Colombian Federation reaches out to the striker they never scouted. An official invitation. It actually arrives. And here's the part that genuinely gives me chills every time I say it. Julián Quiñones doesn't even read the letter. He doesn't open it. Think about that. The country that ignored a barefoot kid scoring 50 goals a season now wants the finished product, gift-wrapped, and he leaves the envelope sealed on the table. May 2023, Colombia tries again. A real call-up this time. The national team. The dream every Colombian kid grows up chasing. And he says, no, he waits, instead, with zero guarantees, for his Mexican naturalization to come through. October 2023, it does. He pulls that green shirt of El Tri over his head, and he never once looks back. And then the man goes supernova, a record-breaking move to Saudi Arabia. And in the season, right before the World Cup, listen to this, he wins the Saudi Pro League Golden Boot. 33 goals, above Ivan Toney, above Cristiano Ronaldo himself. So when the World Cup opens at the Azteca, the striker leading Mexico's line isn't a feel-good story. He's the most informed forward on the planet, and you already know what he does in the 9th minute. The real question is, what does it mean?
Because all of this is bigger than one goal. Honestly, it's bigger than one man. When Quiñones first chose Mexico, it split Mexican football right down the middle. Some of the country's greatest legends stood up and said it publicly. El Tri should never field naturalized players. The shirt is sacred. It belongs to birth, to blood. Well, the answer to that argument just scored the first goal of Mexico's home World Cup. Let that one settle. And Mexico's not alone here. This is the modern game now, whether the purists like it or not. Folarin Balogun came up through England's system and chose the United States. The Williams brothers, born in Spain to Ghanaian parents. One plays for Spain, his own brother plays for Ghana. Half the squads at this World Cup have players who could have worn a different flag, easily. So you tell me, what is a national team anymore? Is it where you were born, or is it who believed in you when it counted? And then there's the question Colombia has to live with. And it's not, why did he leave? It's worse than that. It's, how many more are out there? How many kids are playing barefoot right now, today, in towns no scout will ever drive through, scoring goals that nobody important will ever see? Because Julián Quiñones isn't the one who got away. He's just the one we know about.
So take yourself back to that frozen moment at the Azteca, 9th minute. June 11th, 2026. Ball hitting the net. 90,000 people rising as one body. You know who they're screaming for now? A boy who played barefoot because boots cost money his family didn't have, who hid from his own mother just to play, abandoned by his father, ignored by his country, benched for years in a land that wasn't his. That boy is now the answer to a trivia question that will outlive every single person in that stadium. Who scored the first goal of the 2026 World Cup? Him. Forever. Him. Colombia gave him his blood. Mexico gave him his name. So I'll leave you with the question South America argued about all night long. Is Julián Quiñones a traitor, or did Colombia betray him first? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to know where you land. And if stories like this one are the reason you love football, subscribe. Because the next story is already being written somewhere right now by a kid nobody's watching.